foreigner treatment.
You got rejected from a club that literally begs ajumas and ajashis to go in.
I'm not supposed to tell anyone this. It's not often that people take the
"Go back where you came from"
comment seriously. But when the Karens asked, I delivered. Life after college sucks. Maybe your boss is a boomer. Maybe you don't want to be stuck in your parents' musty, crusty basement. Or maybe you're just a small town girl living in a lonely world. What's an easy way to solve all your problems? Well, maybe you don't. For a limited time only, you can take the Lulu Airlines to another country and start your life over. Does this really help? Well, in some ways it does, and in others, it can be worse. I've spent the past 2.5 years sharing my experiences in Korea. I've taught English, worked at corporate, and even picked up random gigs on Craigslist. No, I didn't sell my feet pics, but that's next on the list. And I even entered my villain era by getting plastic surgery to completely change my identity so I could get revenge on the person who murdered my best friend with a truck cone and covered it up. Don't get me wrong, I love Korea, and running away from all my problems was probably the best decision I ever made. And I probably don't experience any discrimination in Korea. Right? Most of you would think that as a Korean American who lives in Korea, I'd have some advantages, and some would even say privileges here. But surprisingly, I'd say the opposite. Here's my case file. I popped out the womb a Californian, and even though I wasted thousands of dollars just to end up doing something completely unrelated to my major, at least I paid in-state tuition. You've heard of girl math, boy math, even dog math. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to our latest product, broke college student math, where paying in-state tuition basically means you went to college for free. Growing up, I learned about Korean culture by spending my Saturdays locked up in a classroom full of Korean Americans saying onions for sale for the first time ever in their lives. The constant anxiety of being Asian American, shonen fresh off the boat, may not be that far off the boat. I remember in high school, I'd always listen to K-pop in the car ride to school, but right before I'd get out my mom's car, I'd quickly switch to an American pop song, cause I didn't want to be part of the K-pop witch trials. Back then, I felt like I had to hide an important part of my identity, and I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere. Things got better in college when I was surrounded by a community of Asian Americans, but even then, when I had to step out of those social circles, I felt really uncomfortable.
Shout out to everybody with social anxiety.
I didn't know how to talk to people because, well, I'm not white, inside or out. I was scared of being judged for talking about the things I liked, so I thought it was just easier not to say anything at all. And despite the fact that America is praised for being the melting pot, if you can't relate to the mainstream American culture, you're just oil in a cup of water. In America, we're labeled as Asian American, African American, or more specifically, Cambodian American, Filipino American, or Korean American. And while it does give us a sense of identity, community, and solidarity, even within those more specific communities, you never really feel like you can relate unless you're from the same state, let alone the same city. Like, can someone tell me the difference between Bay Area Asian Americans and Asian Americans from Orange County? Yeah, that's what I thought. Everything still felt so divided. And due to a bunch of different reasons, I decided to leave the wonderful place that is America to live in Korea. I was tired of the constant,
"Where are you from?"
I'm about to beat this bitch up.
or the, "OMG, you're Korean?"
I love BTS.
I just wanted to be in a place where I looked like everyone else for once. I imagined learning the language, making Korean friends, and feeling comfortable just existing as myself. I thought, maybe I can finally fit in now. But the thing is, the more time I spend here, the more I realize I will never fit in. So Jeremiah, if being Korean American isn't fully accepted in Korea, aren't you just treated like any other foreigner? There's a special type of foreigner treatment non-Korean passing people get as a bonus perk. Hot take, but sometimes being foreign passing is actually really useful in Korea. Let's say I have to go to an appointment. As someone who looks Korean, Employees usually get annoyed with me once they figure out that I can't completely understand everything they're saying. And these are things that even most Korean native young adults are still learning. But let's say there was a white person in the same situation. Them not knowing anything would be okay because they're just a foreigner. Now, I'm not discounting the discrimination and xenophobia that people face here, but there's no denying that most foreigners, especially if you're white passing, have a certain level of privilege even here.
What?
I've also seen people use being a foreigner as an excuse not to do work. Maybe they just say, oh, I don't speak Korean, so I can't do this. I even knew someone whose boss said they didn't know how to use Excel and it would be too hard to learn how to do it. So their team basically just never gave that person any work that was Excel related, which is literally like half that person's job. Like at that point, how are you even my boss? These people have less work given to them, and even if they're just bad at their jobs, they never get in trouble or get fired because they speak English, and everyone else has to pick up for their slack. I support diversity in the workplace, but this is not the way to do it, fam. I've also heard of someone who walked into an appointment, got expensive treatment for free, and a job that basically only works 10 hours a week, making twice the amount the average Korean does. Oh, and the real kicker? They only got the gig because they're white and they look like they could speak English well. A lot of the time, the reason why foreigners have more opportunities here is because parents say, I want to expose my kid to a foreign face before we send them abroad to study so they don't get scared. Girl, your kids are the ones flaming me for not knowing American celebrities. They definitely know what a white person looks like. It's really rare for Korean adults to make new friends because they usually have their friend groups from high school or college, and here it's a besties for resties kind of deal. But foreign passing people get first pick when it comes to making Korean friends because Koreans want to broaden their experiences or see what it's really like to party with the open-minded Americans. Now, I'm still American. Why don't they want to chill with me? Well, why would a Korean native want a friend who looks Korean but doesn't completely understand them? At that point, they'd rather just meet another Korean native. From their POV, I can't give them anything. It's weird because my passport's the same color as these other American folks, but I guess I don't qualify for the special foreigner treatment premium package because I don't look like a foreigner. Enough about other people. What special things do I as a Korean American get to have? In my free time, I like to cosplay as a translator and book hair salon appointments for people who I haven't talked to since the 7th grade who are visiting Korea. And their excuse is, you're a friend I care about so much and it's just easier because you speak Korean. Girl, I made that appointment all in English. I'm not supposed to tell anyone this, but I'm actually a spy. When I'm walking on the street, I typically blend in with the crowd, but once a Korean hears me speaking English instead of 한국말 in public, I am gifted the most criminally offensive bombastic side eye in broad daylight. Like, I'm sorry for speaking my native tongue. Let me just forget that I spent my entire life in America and only speak Korean for the rest of my life. Or go to jail. Now, I never knew what it felt like to be thrown away like trash until I tried to go clubbing with my Korean American friend and our 2 Korean native friends. Spoiler alert, we got rejected from a club that literally begs ajumas and ajashis to go in just so they can make a few extra bucks. And I'm not even exaggerating. Now, I'm not saying Korean Americans should be treated better than foreigners because in a perfect world, everyone would just be treated equally. But if we're using the typical Korean bouncer math, how does this even make sense? Can I even say this is racist? Now, I can't say there aren't any good things about being a Korean American. My visa is and lets me do things most foreigners can't. And as long as I don't have to have a conversation that's more than just ordering a scoop of ice cream, I can blend in pretty well. And of course, there's the occasional care package for my relatives who decided not to chase the scam that is the American dream. But even if I served in the Korean military and got citizenship here, I probably wouldn't be treated any differently. I feel like if you're ethnically Korean, it's more about where you were born and not so much where you spent most of your life. There are Koreans who were born in Korea but moved to another country at like 3 or 5 years old and spent the rest of their lives there. But whenever they come back to Korea, they're just the Koreans who studied abroad. And everyone thinks they're the hot who drive their loud-ass sports cars in the middle of Apgujeong at 3 a.m. while getting the most expensive bottle service at the bougiest nightclubs. But in reality, most of them don't even know how to order at restaurants here. And I think this goes back to the idea of othering, where if you're not like the other girls, even in the smallest way, you can't sit with us.
Fine. You can walk home.
At the end of the day, other people pick and choose the identity that best fits their needs. And I'm always the one who's either putting in my blood, sweat, and tears to help people, or I'm the one everyone blames when something goes wrong. And I know the grass is always greener, but being stuck in between two identities means that you'll never fully belong to either, and there's not as many people who really understand your experiences. You're just a niche within a niche. And while this video may sound like a giant rant, and I admit it is, I really just wanted to clear up the misunderstanding that just because you go back to where you came from doesn't mean you'll get the warm welcome you're expecting. Pak Jimin is my bias.